I never imagined that a single evening could change how I saw everything in my life, my home, my relationships, even myself. My name is Laura Bennett, and for most of my life, I believed I understood what boundaries meant. I believed I had raised my son, Ethan, to understand them too. But the heart is complicated, and sometimes emotions blur lines that should have remained crystal clear. When I lost my husband, Michael, 3 years ago, my world went grey. The mornings were heavy, the nights long, and the silence in our house was unbearable. Ethan had just turned 21 back then, finishing college while working part-time. He tried to be strong for me, and I tried to do the same for him. We became each other's only family, holding on to what little warmth remained. In those early months, Ethan often stayed home just to keep me company. He'd cook dinner, watch movies with me, or just talk about his classes. Slowly, that bond deepened, not in any wrong way, but in a comforting, emotional sense. I leaned on him more than I probably should have. He became my reason to get out of bed, to keep going. Life began to settle into a rhythm again. I found small joys, tending to my garden, baking, volunteering at the local library. Ethan had started a new job, and although he was busy, he still came home often to check on me. One summer evening, he showed up unexpectedly, holding a bouquet of daisies, my favorite flowers. "I know you miss Dad," he said softly, placing them in my hands. "But he'd want you to smile again." Those words pierced through the walls I'd built around my heart. I smiled, maybe for the first time in months, and hugged him tightly. That hug lasted a little longer than usual, a mother's embrace mixed with unspoken grief and gratitude. But something in that closeness made me feel uneasy. Days turned into weeks, and I began to notice subtle changes. Ethan's tone when he talked to me grew softer, more protective. He complimented me often, told me I looked nice, asked if anyone had been bothering me at the library. I brushed it off as caring, but deep down, I felt something shifting, not in him, but in the space between us. One evening, I was preparing dinner when the storm outside cut the power. The house fell into darkness. Ethan came over with a flashlight, joking about how it felt like camping indoors. We lit a few candles, and the dim glow cast shadows that made everything strangely intimate. We sat at the table, sharing stories and laughter. Then, without realizing it, I told him something I'd never said out loud. "I don't think I'll ever let anyone close to me again," I admitted. "Losing your father, it broke something inside me." He reached across the table and gently touched my hand. "You deserve to feel loved again, Mom," he said quietly. That single moment lingered in my mind for days. His words were innocent, but my heart betrayed me by feeling something I shouldn't have. I started questioning myself. Was I lonely, or was I crossing an emotional line by holding on to him this way? The next morning, I decided to focus on rebuilding my own life. I joined a book club, started exercising, and even considered dating again. But Ethan didn't seem happy about it. When I mentioned meeting a man from the community center for coffee, his expression darkened. "Why do you need someone else?" he asked, almost defensively. "You have me." It wasn't anger in his voice, it was fear, possessiveness. I laughed softly, brushing it aside, but his words echoed in my head long after he left. Over the next few weeks, I noticed him becoming more distant at times, then overly attentive at others. He'd drop by late at night just to check on me, or text to ask who I was with. I knew it came from love, but it began to feel like control. One Saturday, we had a serious talk. I told him I needed space to live my life, that he needed to do the same. He listened, nodded, but I could see the pain in his eyes. That conversation broke something fragile between us. A few days later, I found an envelope on my kitchen table. Inside was a handwritten letter. It read, "Mom, I never meant to hurt you. I just don't know how to stop protecting you. You're all I have left. I'm sorry if I crossed a line. I just didn't want to lose you too." Tears filled my eyes as I read it. I realized how deeply grief had shaped both of us. My son wasn't trying to overstep, he was trying to hold on to something familiar in a world that had taken too much from us. That night, I went to his apartment. When he opened the door, his eyes were tired, red from crying. I hugged him, a real mother's hug, one that said, I forgive you. We both crossed boundaries, I whispered. But love doesn't always mean losing control. Sometimes it means letting go. From that day, we started healing. I learned to open my heart again, not to replace what was lost, but to rebuild what was broken. Ethan began dating someone new, a sweet girl named Samantha, and seeing him happy made me realize how important it was to let him find his own path. As for me, I finally went out with that man from the community center. His name was David. He was gentle, patient, and kind. When I told Ethan about him, he smiled this time, a genuine smile. I just want you to be happy, Mom, he said, and I knew he meant it. Looking back now, I understand that the boundary my son crossed wasn't one of intent, it was born from pain, love, and confusion. We both blurred the lines between grief and need. But in finding our way back, we rediscovered what love truly means, not possession, not dependence, but understanding and freedom. Sometimes life teaches us through mistakes, through the edges we cross unintentionally. Ethan and I learned that lesson the hard way. But now, our bond is stronger, not because we ignored the boundary, but because we learned why it needed to exist. And whenever I see daisies, those simple white flowers he once brought home, I smile. They remind me of how fragile love can be, and how beautiful it becomes when it heals.